Good afternoon, everyone. It's Allie Corbin, Ken Shreve here with a look at the market for Thursday, May 25th, where a powerful earnings report from Nvidia fueled a tech rally, Ken.
A big tech rally. S&P 500 performed okay. Small caps lagged. Intel weighed on the Dow, but overall a pretty good session. So let's take a look at Elf Beauty, another big earnings winner today, and then also want to take a look at Monday.com, MNDY, and finish up with chip equipment firm KLA.
Let's do it. First, let's take a look at the major indexes. The Nasdaq today leading the way, fueled by Nvidia once again, and it was up 1.7% today. The S&P 500 up 0.9% on the downside. We had the Dow down 0.1%, and as you mentioned, Ken, small caps lagging today with the Russell down at 0.7%. So for those who were doubting this rally, Ken, at least in the technology sector, it seems like Nvidia is telling the market all systems go.
Well, it was a pretty amazing earnings report, and obviously got a lot of press today for good reason. I mean, the revenue guidance was pretty incredible, about $4 billion above what was expected. So, strength throughout the report, and the Nasdaq's in a confirmed uptrend here. And looking at the Nasdaq 100, it hit its highest level in about 11 months. So this is pretty noteworthy movement here, and Nasdaq both Nasdaq indexes have been the leading indexes for a while now. And hey, we got a personal income and spending report tomorrow that's going to have a key piece of inflation data in it. So we'll see how the market reacts to it.
Right. And while there is a good amount of bullish action, one thing that we have been pointing out all year long is how narrow the leadership is. And it seems like today, especially, that leadership was very apparent, and not just in all chip stocks being lifted by Nvidia. It was more of the AI plays that were really leading the gains today, in addition to other leaders like Elf, of course, moving on its earnings report. But it seems like by and large, it's large cap technology stocks with an AI bent that are really benefiting in this rally.
Yeah, and it's really been sort of the same story that's been going on for several weeks now. So it's kind of a narrow rally, maybe led by 20, 25 stocks, something like that. All your large cap tech names, like you mentioned. It was amazing. Just talking with Chris Gessel earlier, just looking at the breadth of the market today, it was almost 2-to-1 negative on both exchanges. So even though you had a nice percentage gain for the Nasdaq, declining stocks outnumbered advancers by close to 2-to-1, and it was the same ratio on the S&P 500. Yeah, so here's that RSP equal weight ETF, and this is really just a good example of what the weak breadth in the market looks like. S&P ended with a really nice gain today, and the RSP was basically flat.
And we can also take a look at the Dow here. As you mentioned, Ken, Intel weighing on the Dow. It's now down at its 200-day line. IWM, after hitting resistance at its 200-day line, continuing to back off. And we can take a look at 0TNX. This is the 10-year Treasury yield continuing higher after breaking out of a trading range not all too long ago.
It's pretty incredible to see the percentage gain in both Nasdaq indexes today, with interest rates spiking like they did. I mean, that 10-year yield has been on quite a run, and the dollar was strong again today as well. So typically, rising interest rates and a strong dollar doesn't really mesh with a good strong up day for the market. But tech stocks shrugged off the strong dollar and just focused on Nvidia's earnings report, which again was quite good.
Right, which we can show it for our audience. It's not one of the stocks that we're highlighting here today. It was already extended from a proper buy zone heading into the report, but finishing up about 24% today in massive volume. And Ken, leading stocks often make it difficult to get into them, but last quarter, on the strong move on earnings, IBD's leaderboard did initiate a position, and has been holding it. So great job to the leaderboard team and a nice pop on earnings today.
Yeah, we added it basically 3 months ago when it gapped up the last time it reported earnings. So nice gap up today. I think the weekly chart here is pretty interesting for
Mm-hmm.
Nvidia because you can see, this big long basis started was that back in November 2021. It's just kind of in the early stages of breaking out of this huge consolidation. So would not chase the stock up here. This is what we're dealing with in this current market. Going through growth screens, and you have maybe some cash you want to put to work. It is not easy finding stocks that are still in range, and a lot of people asking, should I buy Nvidia today? And it was very stretched headed into earnings, but I think the weekly chart looks very compelling
Mm-hmm.
here. But again, we just want to kind of wait for the stock to pause. The market may pull back. Maybe inflation is going to take center stage again, and interest rates are going to continue to head higher. So we'll just have to see. But want to wait for a pullback for Nvidia, or at least like we talk about, just some tight sideways trading near highs.
Yeah, we will see if it can hold that big move. And SMH, of course, we want to take a look at Nvidia, a big component of this chip sector ETF, but it after a breakout recently, because a recent gain here for SMH was really positive last week, up 8.5%, pulled in a little bit, but throughout the course of this week until today, breaking out with some gusto here. So it's not just Nvidia, it is other chip names too.
Yeah, pretty broad base, except Intel. Like we said, Intel was down more than 5% today, just kind of out of position in key markets. But yeah, going back to SMH, I mean, this is just sort of a good picture of how difficult this market is, because last week this stock, rose in heavy volume and it went over that recent high of 131.78. And you said, okay, well, it declined for a couple days, and then it gapped down pretty hard yesterday in heavy volume. And you're wondering, what's going on here? There were a lot of sellers in SMH yesterday, and then Nvidia comes out with earnings and fuels a huge gain for it. So this is still a very tough market. We hear on IBD Live some people kind of spinning their wheels trying to make money in this market, and it's still a tricky market. You just want to be careful not to chase these big movers that have run up a lot. That's sort of the main takeaway at this point. Just wait for the setups to come to you, because if you're thinking of buying SMH or Nvidia when it's up so huge, I mean, you could be sitting on a loss pretty quickly. So still waiting for better setups out there, seeing more, but it's conditions are still quite challenging. And the weak breadth has a lot to do with that. When you just don't have stocks participating,
Right.
that's one reason why the screens are a little bit light with buy candidates.
Yeah, makes things tougher. But with the strength that we're seeing in a group of names, it's pretty clear who those leaders are. Now we just got to find the right time to get into those, like Elf, which arguably was actionable close to the open today on its move on earnings. I think at the open it was up around 6% or so, 6-8% or so, around $96 a share. Quickly became extended. I did, full disclosure, initiate a position early into the market hours this morning. But can a strong earnings report here from Elf, if we look at this weekly chart, is talk that maybe in the later stages of a move, but as of now, it's continuing its strong run.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was a tough buy today, but again, it did gap up, and it really held that gap quite well. We just looked at the intraday chart; there were just no sellers in this stock, hardly at all today. So really nice close for Elf Beauty. Remember, we talked about Celsius yesterday and why that stock has been performing so well, because it reported a nice acceleration in revenue growth in the latest quarter. And back to Elf, I mean, that's exactly what happened here too. So when you're a high profile growth stock that might sell at a high elevation, you really need to be producing that accelerating revenue growth. And Elf did that in spades. Revenue up 78%, and they also materially raised their full year revenue guidance. So obviously, this is a company with return on equity of 25%, 2.5%. Great management team, obviously running a tight ship here, great profitability, and 2 straight quarters of triple-digit earnings growth and accelerating revenue growth and raised guidance. So you can see why the stock was up so much today.
Yes, and it is now about 16% above the 10-week line, but one that we will continue to watch, and it'll be key to see these stocks hold these strong moves on earnings, because that could be a make or break here. If we see the earnings gaps but they can't hold, that's another scenario that could play out. What we really want to see is that continuation of strength.
Yeah, exactly. So again, we've got a potentially market-moving headline in the morning, but again, I think at this point the stock market may be just kind of growing more comfortable with the fact that inflation is slowly coming down, maybe not as fast as some Fed members want it to. So we'll see how it reacts to the personal consumption expenditures index tomorrow, and we'll see if these strong moves from Nvidia and Elf Beauty can hold.
Yes. And we also want to take a look at Monday.com, MNDY, with a recent breakout above a handle. Tried to clear the left side high of this cup base here today. Did get turned away a bit, but it is on pace for a very strong gain this week, up about 11%. That's after up 14% last week and 12% the week before. So this stock is making a strong charge off recent lows with an RS line blue dot underscoring that recent price outperformance here, Ken.
Yeah, this is a company that's got very interesting business, and I know I think you use it and you're familiar
Yes.
with what they do, but sort of customizing software applications and work management tools. So very interesting concept here, and a nice gap up on earnings. It was a little pullback near the 150 level, and then it started going again. So again, after 4 straight up days and a big rally off that 108 level. You want to see this stock kind of pause a little bit. So if it starts pulling back moderately in light volume, that's the price action that we would like to see for a possible new entry. What we don't want to see is higher volume declines, signs of institutional selling soon after a breakout. So clearly a stock that's under some accumulation here after earnings, but again, one that you don't want to chase. But let's just see. You see sellers were in the stock today, knocked it off highs after it tried to get over that recent high of 171, 172. So if it drifts lower in light volume, maybe back down towards that 150 level, maybe won't get down that far, but a low volume pullback could see a new entry here.
We'll have to see. And lastly, let's take a look at KLAC in the semi equipment group. It almost neared a breakout on the 18th of the month, pulled back to form a 4-day handle, and is now breaking out above this 430 area. Strong volume behind the move today, up over 6%.
Yeah, and volume as the stock went through that 400 level, and here again is that low volume pullback as it started to come in. It pulled back to its short-term moving average. Volume came in heavy in the stock today. So this was an actual buy signal today, and a stock that is still in range here. The chip equipment group has got a lot of strong performers in it. We have ASML on leaderboard that we increased the position today because of good price action. So the chip equipment group is looking quite good.
Yes, it is. And Ken, I think the question for investors now is, with so many chip stocks showing interesting moves, when we have uh, concentrated portfolios, how do we go about determining which ones we should choose when there seems like there's a lot of merchandise out there right now?
Well, I mean, for leaderboard, we went with ASML because we just felt like it had the most compelling fundamentals at this point. And you can see here's a stock that pulled back to those short-term support levels over the past couple of days, moved nicely today with some volume. So we increased the position a little bit, but you can see. You can see the annual earnings estimates here. You can look at accelerating revenue growth in recent quarters. This is not easy to find in the chip equipment group. I mean, even a big leader like KLAC, you can see recent growth here is has been slowing down, and then you get estimates that don't look so great. And really, that's kind of typical in this group. A lot of the chip sector is still working through inventory, very cyclical. So these chip equipment firms are kind of waiting for things to pick back up again. But because so many of them are acting well now, you're probably looking out 6 to 9 months in advance and probably seeing brighter business prospects. So. We look at ASML to be a really high quality name in the group, but again, KLA, another institutional quality name that gave a buy signal today.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that added information, Ken. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you're keeping tabs on investors.com/events for all the latest happenings for the IBD team, whether it's our podcast guests, upcoming IBD live guests, virtual summits, guests for my Trader Tales show, and so much more. Investors.com/events, bookmark it. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you back here tomorrow.